guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
Pat. Oh, how was your weekend?
My weekend was okay. I laid around the house a lot. Started a new
Nice.
job. Yeah, it was nice. So weekends are kind of they mean something to me again. Instead of
Yeah.
just being off for 6 months when it was one extended weekend. Now those 2 days kind of mean a lot. So the main thing I did this weekend was I was a judge for the Real Comedy Festival, which meant I had to sit through like 40 short films. And some of them were funny, some of them were very not funny. But it was interesting because there was a lot of pandemic movies, which I think is to be expected, right? Um, when you're doing a film festival, you're getting submissions from amateur filmmakers. It was
Sure.
a lot of things that were very pandemic based, people in masks, blah blah blah. But there was also like a lot that you could tell were filmed during the pandemic because of just the way it was structured, right? One of the movies, a chick gets into pole dancing, and she gets one of those like pole dancing at home kits, and the whole movie is her like trying to set up the pole, and she's FaceTiming one of her friends, and then there's like an instructional video that she watched. So it's always just her alone in the scene. You know what I mean? And like it just made me think that like I don't know, like you're probably too young to remember, but like Vietnam movies were huge when I was growing up. Like growing up in the 80s, like there was a lot of Vietnam movies. There was Deer Hunter, there was Rambo, right? And like that was something that we went through like as a culture that left like a very big mark on our psyche, and it translated its way into film, okay? And with 9/11, like there wasn't as many 9/11 movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just kind of a handful of them, and it was still this big event that happened, and it's something that left its mark on people. But you didn't see as many 9/11 movies as you did Vietnam movies, right? And now, like I feel like COVID might be kind of like the next thing, like the pandemic. And even though I sat here and I watched probably like 20 pandemic themed short films this weekend, you're really not seeing it translated too much into Hollywood. You know, Judd Apatow did that one that went straight to Netflix about them making the movie in the bubble, but that's kind of all I can think of. You know, so it's interesting to see the way that we're like as a culture like progressing or processing trauma, in our films. So I don't know. I feel like been thinking about movies a lot this weekend because that's all I've been doing is watching them. And I also submitted my short film "Can't Buy a Thrill" to the 14 Film Festival.
Yep.
So hopefully that gets selected. And friend of the show Mike Vanderbilt's in it, and a bunch of Steely Dan songs that I did not get the permission to use. But whatever, fuck them. You want to come after me, Steely Dan? Come after me. What are you gonna do, bro?
I'm gonna
You
tell
know?
on you. I'm gonna go tell Steely Dan that.
Yeah, go tell Dan.
I'm
Go,
gonna go tell Dan.
look him up on Twitter. See if Dan from Steely Dan is on Twitter, and be like, "Yo, this guy used your music in a movie he did
I'm gonna.
about pegging and alien abduction." I'm sure they'd be like, "That's okay."
I'm gonna go tell him.
There is a pegging scene in it, and
Good.
the woman that's doing the pegging is wearing a rooster mask.
Is there?
So it's
Was there real pegging happening during the filming?
no, but afterwards we all got our
Good.
shit pushed in together. It was kind of a cast party thing,
Awesome. Good for
But
you.
yeah, what would you expect from the co-host of On Wednesday We Talk
Right.
Weird?
Exactly. Pegging party. I mean, come
Right.
on, it's a thing. So anyway, so now we'll announce our first annual pegging party.
We gonna do it in Dayton, or we gonna do it in Toledo, where all the weirdos are?
That's a good question. Probably West Virginia. I mean, we could probably get a nice plot of land and do it outside.
I have like phobias about getting my shit pushed in down south. Like I think that's just too deliverance for me. Like I want to be comfortable in the Midwest.
Fair
You know?
enough. We'll make it happen. Wow. Well, I'm sick, and I've been sick. And it's no big deal. I don't have COVID, but like COVID symptoms, and
Right.
so I did a bunch of nothing this weekend, but I did sit down and pick up a video game, which I don't get to do very often anymore, and that makes me sad because I That's like my other passion is fucking retro video games. And so I sat down and I started playing. I guess Star Ocean had released finally original their original game to North America, and I sat down and started playing it. And today, when I picked it up for a minute, I died. My character died. No big deal. Sometimes you die in these games. And I didn't fucking save my game not one time over the course of the entire weekend. So I'm
That is
very
insane. There's
sad.
no autosave feature?
No, and you know what? I thought because okay, so here's the thing. I play retro video games. Like that's what I do. I don't play the new games. Like I'm not very good at them. It's not that. It's just that I don't know. I like the retro stuff. So this is on the Switch, right? And so I thought that maybe there was an autosave feature because it's a remastered re-release of this old game, right? Because a
Hmm.
lot of these old games do have that when you play them. But no, it like showed me where to like save on the game. It's like this is a save point, blah blah blah. And like when you run over it, it makes a noise like it's saved. And I'm like, oh, okay, I just run over it, it saves. No, that's not what fucking happens. That's not how you save in the game. So I have to go back and I put like fucking 20 hours into this game. And I have to fucking, play it all over again. So
Man, you
I'm
need to
pissed
take a
about it.
break before you go back to that.
I thought about it. I'm like, man, do I just want to? I got other games to play. I can play something else. I'm like, do I just put this down for now and play something else, or do I? Because I was so into it. I was so into it. I was playing it before work today, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get some gaming in. Fucking, I died. I was just experimenting with my party or whatever, and I fucking died. And I'm just like, oh, no big deal. But it was a big deal, and so it ruined my whole day.
Can we talk about games for a minute? Because I've been trying to get back into it. I had downloaded Elden Ring
Yeah.
recently, which is like, the big RPG du jour. Uh, and it kind of sucked. I know it's very decisive on the internet. A lot of people think that it's too hard, or that some people think that it's awesome, and some people like it, some people hate it. Um, I'm firmly in the don't care for it camp. I didn't think it was that great. I got in, it just made me want to play Skyrim again, you know, which is one of those games that I probably played through a million times. Skyrim and Fallout 4, I like the Bethesda RPGs. And then last week, I impulse bought, and I should not have done this, but I did it anyway because fuck it. The Evil Dead game.
Ooh, well,
Yeah, and did you ever play the Friday the 13th game?
yeah,
Okay,
I have played that one.
it's a lot like that. What's nice about the Evil Dead game though is that there is a like first person campaign modes, or
Okay.
like first person missions, or single player missions. I'm sorry. So started doing that, found it kind of frustrating, and then didn't get a chance to play it. Like, have not picked it up since. And
Oh
it's
no.
it's not because like I've been ignoring it. It's because there's just been other stuff to do, or my kid's been monopolizing the TV with the video games and stuff. Um, so yeah, I wish I gamed more because I do love to play
Yeah,
video
me
games.
too.
You know,
I definitely feel I've got so many that I need to just play, and I keep telling myself that you know what, you're not allowed to buy more video games until you play all of the video games that you own. But then I just keep buying more video games. So, but I did want to mention that I did post about this on social media, so you guys have probably seen that, and I'm pissed off even more now because I don't know. Listen, I hate Facebook. I can't say it enough. It's a fucking cesspool. But over
right?
on Facebook, under the comments is a bunch of fucking dudes mansplaining fucking video games to me. They're like, one guy's like, "Oh, have you ever played Star Ocean before? You should definitely get a character guide because I mean it's a hard game." Blah blah blah. And it's like, fucking yeah, my guy. I played all of them. I played except for this one. So don't fucking come at me and tell me how to fucking play video games. Some other dude's like, "Oh yeah, JRPGs are like that." Yeah, guy, I fucking know. It's what I play. I probably have more hours than you guys do on these fucking games. I promise.
Hey,
You know,
speaking of Facebook, did you get your Facebook check?
my Facebook check.
What? Yes, there is. Oh, you're in Ohio. Never mind. Illinois had a class action lawsuit against Facebook. And everybody that signed up for it, if you had Facebook during such and such a period, you got a check for $397.
What?
Yes, in Illinois. I probably should say
Why?
this for the new because of some lawsuit against like biometrics or some shit. I don't know. I hate Facebook too, and
Hate Facebook.
didn't have one for the longest time. I only have a Facebook now, and I've mentioned this before on the show, is because number one, I wanted to make one for my construction company, and number two, my wife made me join like all these like Cub Scout groups and school parent groups so that I could like vote in elections and like throw, you know what I mean? Like she'd be like, "We're voting for this," you know, and I'd have to vote for it. So there's another vote, whatever. Other than that, like I don't like using it. I very rarely go on there. It's too much like family. I don't want a social media with family and ex coworkers, right? I like my Twitter, I like my Instagram, and honestly, I'm kind of close to getting rid of my Instagram too because that's even too much sometimes. But I do love Twitter, so but anyway, Facebook, if you had it during the certain period of time, which was during, I did not have Facebook during that period of time. You were entitled to this class action lawsuit, and everybody that signed up for it got $397 this week, except for me, which is fucking
Wow.
shitty. But you didn't either, so fucking we're in the same boat, you
Yeah,
know?
I did not. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
I had no idea that that was a thing. But again, fuck Facebook. Anyway,
yeah,
so that's what I spent my weekend doing. Let's talk about some news. I don't really have huge news except for we got to talk about this congressional hearing for the UAPs.
sure,
We didn't get to talk about that. So I kind of last week had to edit the show and kind of added some highlights. I guess I really didn't get into it that much because I didn't feel like there was that much. Pato, nobody heard what you thought about it. What did you think about the
No,
congressional
I mean,
hearing?
I listened to your heavily edited. Last week's show was like a redacted government fucking document. Uh, but no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like nothing came of it. Nothing was going to come of it. I found I listened. Me and you were in that clubhouse room that night, and I thought that was very enlightening. Listening to their kind of take on it.
Uh huh.
It did feel like a dog and pony show. I remember I said that as soon as in the midst of this Roe versus Wade shit, suddenly they dropped this button like, oh, we're going to do this now. But yeah, nothing really came of it. They seemed ill prepared of all the video they could have shown. They kind of showed something least interesting and they didn't
Yeah,
really know how to work, the fucking, what was it, VLC
the
media player?
VLC media player. Yeah.
Which everybody that watches porn on the internet knows how to use. I don't know what the fuck their problem was. But yeah, it was very lackluster and whatever. It was kind of what we said it was going to be, you know.
I mean, that part was hilarious. That was funny. I thought that some, interesting things were like oh my god, I can't remember any of the people's names because I don't know. I guess I didn't prepare. The black guy, what was his name? Moultrie, wasn't that Moultrie? Whenever anybody asked Bray a question, Bray would look at him and then he would kind of give him looks to like okay information or not. You could kind of see that. And I thought that that was, I mean, I don't know, to be expected, I guess. But, it's interesting because a lot of the information that was given was mostly things that they didn't say. You know what I mean? Like when they would be like, oh, we'll answer that question during the closed meeting. Well, we already fucking know the answer to that question then, don't we? Um,
Right.
they, and they would mention things, like fucking, what's his name? The one dude, Gallagher, came in hot. He came in hot with some questions. Let me tell you, he was drilling these motherfuckers. Even he was like, talking about very particular incidences that are very popular in, within the UFO community or UAP, whatever the fuck you want to call it, community. And it was neat to see somebody kind of stand up for these things. Like the one thing that was like kind of weird was when they were talking about the Malmstrom incident, which happened, I think, in the 60s. It was like right after Project Blue Book, where Malmstrom is an Air Force base, and they had seen some weird craft in the sky, and then all of a sudden, all of their missiles on the base were disabled for like an hour. This
Mm,
this was a government incident. I mean, this is a well documented government incident, and they sat there and said that they'd never heard of this before, and it's like, but
right.
isn't that exactly what you're supposed to be doing? And then they try to make it seem like it was like a media thing. They're like, well, we don't investigate things in the media or whatever, and there's a protocol. And Gallagher's like, well, what's the protocol? Because I'm asking you. He said that. I'm asking you to look into it. I'm saying that you should look into that. And they're just like, okay, never heard of it though. And just really brushing it off. And it's like, but isn't that kind of the point of this entire task force is for you guys to investigate shit exactly like that? I mean, isn't that
Yeah, like they're supposed to be focusing on, which is is a small piece of the puzzle, but I
very
guess if you
small?
have to start somewhere, starting with um, sightings and encounters and all this stuff that are based around military bases that involve military personnel
Right.
is you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So that isn't completely, it's unfortunate and it doesn't even touch on the abduction shit,
No.
but you got to build, you're trying to build that up, right?
Right.
So I get starting there, but I don't even feel like they did that adequately. You know what I mean? So
Well, no,
it's,
they haven't started there, and that's the point because they haven't
yeah.
investigated this Malmstrom, or they're lying about it. Because they keep
Well,
drilling home what the point of this is security. It's a breach of security to us. Well, then isn't a breach of security that these things can disable our fucking weapons?
yeah, but they're not there yet. They're not. You're starting a conversation very slowly. Think of this whole thing as a conversation with the American public, and they're starting it very, 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 very slowly. And they're not going to get to the big stuff. They're not going to start talking about extraterrestrials. They're not going to start talking about abductions. They're not going to start talking
Yeah.
about things that have been found or recovered or from archaeological. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be very slow to the point where maybe they're not even making progress. Maybe it's a distraction. It's a way to say yes, we're doing something, when in reality they're not really doing anything. You know, um, because what would the point of all? What is like you got to? This is what's the point of all this? What is their end game? It's not to really investigate this shit because they're not really doing that. So it's got to be just to show that, in light of all the technological, all the scientific advancements that are happening and everything that we're learning about universes and science and fucking all this shit, right? Like we got to kind of move the conversation forward as far as these sightings go, right? And this is them acting like they're part of that. I guess I don't know. It seems I think it's all bullshit. You
I
know.
mean, I don't. I think that's something. mm, maybe we'll do a whole episode on it. I think that something has happened. I think that we're in trouble, and I think they know that we're in trouble, and I think they piss these things off, and I think that this is kind of their way of saying. And this sounds so fucking conspiracy nutso, but
No, that's what this show's for. Say it.
I think that this is their way of kind of saying, look, there's something happening that you all don't quite understand that we kind of understand and we kind of know about. Um, and I think just with everything going on right now, I think with just the state of the current space race and things like that, I think it all makes sense. Um, and I don't exactly know what that is, because I'm not, I don't work for them or whatever. But I wish I did. But yeah, I think it's part of something bigger. Like I said, and I've been saying this. I think that we have broken some type of treaty, or we intend on breaking some kind of treaty that we might have had with these things, and we know that we're going to piss them off. We know that. We're aware.
I I would my conspiracy theory is that they're laying the groundwork for a false flag event. That's mine.
That
I mean,
involves aliens.
as long as we're just throwing them out there, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think is it Project Bluebeam? There's something
Yeah.
that's been established already. I mean, I don't know how well you'd say established, but that I'm not the first person to fucking say that.
Yeah. A lot of people
Um,
think that.
yeah, that's what
Not
my
a
two
lot of
cents.
people, but there's people.
Yeah,
There's a community. Maybe we'll do a show about Project Bluebeam. I don't subscribe to it, but there's a lot of people that do. So
all right.
maybe it's worthy of talking about. I'll add it to the list. But anyway, yeah. So they haven't even. I mean, they weren't really interested. They were pushing this. If you see something, say something. I mean, the push to end the stigma. I said this on last week's show. The push to end the stigma is really neat. But they're not really offering anything for contactees, for people that have had experiences, that people that have been abducted. Um, which is a huge part of this. It's not just some lights in the sky, there's a whole nother piece. And, they're not doing a very good job. I mean, I don't know what they have. The fact of the matter is that once that live feed ended, they all went and took a break and came back in and talked about other shit that we're not allowed to know about. And there were people in that room that know what the fuck was talked about. And I'm just waiting for one of them to come out and say exactly what was said. I don't know if they will, but
Uh, they'll leak Supreme Court rulings before they leak that stuff.
I mean, I'm waiting on it. I'm just saying, like, Anonymous needs to get on top of it or whatever. All this stuff is allegedly transcribed. All court documents are. It's there. It's out there somewhere. I'd love to see what's in it because that is the real shit that's gonna blow your mind.
Well, hasn't where are we at with that? Because hasn't has WikiLeaks never released alien stuff, or have they never come up with groundbreaking information? All the cables that they've released, they haven't.
Probably. I mean, there's that one guy. There's this one guy. He runs a website. I think it's called the Black Vault or something, and he has filed the oh my god, the papers that you can file for information on things, Freedom of Information Act,
Yeah.
the FOIAs. He's filed a ton of those, and he's gotten a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff. And as a
Mm,
matter of fact, some of his stuff, he was kind of trying to boast about it because some of the shit that he's filed for and he's received information on was actually kind of talked about like in the hearing, and stuff like that. And so that's a good resource to go to. But again, that's all information that you can file for and get from the government. It's not classified information, it's declassified information. But
right.
even the declassified information is right there in front of your fucking face and nobody's ever read it. Just like when we talked about the FBI documents on Tesla being from fucking Venus. Who the hell knows about that? Does anybody ever
Right.
fucking think? Nobody fucking thinks about that. It's
Yeah.
got, it's got to get brought to your attention. Otherwise, you don't think to file these things. You know, and whoever the fuck filed for that and got, that's another thing. It's not like when it's declassified, it just sits in this bin somewhere. You have to ask for it. And if you don't know what you're asking for, you're not going to get it.
Right, and then you get it, and then you release it, and then people wonder if it's real in the first place.
Right.
Because I could post something on the internet tonight that I got from through the FOIA, and it could be completely fucking bullshit.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
unless they file FOIA for the same thing and get a different document, there's no way of disproving what I got. You
Right.
know,
Right. It comes
so
down to how much you trust your sources. I mean, at the end of the
right,
day. And so, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, and so I don't know. I'm very curious what happened at the closed hearing. I want to see kind of what will happen. I'm very curious what will happen with people like me. I posted that thing where now colleges are starting to offer grants for people that are want to study, or get into things that study UAPs. And I'm like, well, holy shit, that's amazing. But what does that mean for people like us? Are we going to be just fucking armchair detectives now? Our experience doesn't mean anything. I mean, is that kind of where this is going? We have to get degrees in order to study these things anymore. I mean, are just crazy people with podcasts? I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of not fair. You know what I mean? I should be grandfathered in here. Um, and all the other people. I mean, look at the fucking MUFON investigator. Anybody could be a MUFON investigator. Did you know
oh
that?
yeah,
Anybody
yeah.
can.
Oh yeah.
You just got to pay
All it
for
takes
it.
is money. Yeah.
Right. You just got to pay for it. You could be a MUFON investigator. But some people do, and they get into it, and they're a MUFON investigator, and they take it very seriously. Are those people? Would they be up for one of these jobs? Because you kind of need those people that have been compiling all these stories and all these instances over the years. Nobody's been putting the work in harder than ufologists.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. What are you gonna do from the ground except just compile stories? You're never gonna get to the bottom of anything. You know what I mean? Unless you have physical evidence where you can see what these crafts are made of and where they come from, or you have some kind of communication with the occupants. All you're doing is just looking at video. Check the videotape. You know what I mean? Or you're looking at radar evidence or something like that. I think what we can learn from that is relatively minuscule in the grand scheme of things, and I feel like we've already reached the ceiling on it for the most part. There's not a whole lot we're going to figure out about the phenomenon by looking at another cell phone video. What we need now is physical evidence or communication or something, or a more detailed history of this stuff. Um, that's what we need at this point, and I don't think we're going to get that. And I don't think somebody working for MUFON or working with a grant from the University of Wisconsin is going to get that either. You know,
Right, they have to decide to make contact with us. That's just the way it is.
right?
And, that kind of depends on if they feel that it's worthy enough to do so. And, I think that's kind of, unless we get lucky and another one crashes and it's well documented to the point to where they can't cover it, Um, but even then, what do you got? Some bodies? Okay, well, what do you learn about who they are? Not much. Not much. And even maybe there's not bodies in these craft. We talked about that. What if they're robots or, drones
Sure.
within these things, I still don't think we're going to learn too much from them if that were the case. They would have to come down here and talk to us. And I don't know. Like I said, I mean, I posed the treaty idea. Yeah, I don't know if that's really happening, but I thought about it. It's a theory.
Well, no, it's a very popular one that the aliens signed a treaty with Eisenhower back in the 50s. I
Yeah, it's
mean,
been
that
around for a
was
long time. Yeah.
yeah, it's somewhat plausible that he signed off on a certain amount of abductions in exchange for technology, and that eventually we found that the aliens broke the treaty, and there was some kind of skirmish, and the treaty ended, and now we're in a stalemate where they kind of do what they want to do, but they dial it back. And that's why the abduction phenomenon isn't as widespread as it was
Right.
20, 30 years ago. I mean, that's not anything new, but I don't know. Maybe it is. Who knows? We're
My
not going
sources say that we have made contact, but we don't know anything. And that's why we don't share the information with the public, is because people freak out when you tell them you don't have answers. And so that's what's happening. And that's from people that I trust very, 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 very much. That's the most I can say about it. I hate to be that person, but I trust him and have good
to.
reason to.
Some guy, because you brought this up before, and my theory is that there's some dude that goes to the same laundromat as you in Dayton that says that he works at the Air Force Base and tells you this shit.
I don't go to the laundromat. So you're wrong.
Okay, well, you guys get your dry cleaners. I don't know. You guys go to the same dry cleaner. Sometimes you bump into him when you're getting your shirts pressed or whatever, and he's
Nope.
like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And you're like, "No, I didn't hear about that." Like, "Oh, it's top secret." And then he goes left and you go right, and that's it.
It's way cooler than that. I
Okay.
promise. It's cool.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean I can't that's all I can say about it. I don't know. I mean it sucks. Can't do much with that
Oh,
information, but it is what it is.
right.
But anyway, so but that's not from one guy. I mean, that's another thing. I have three extremely credible people. All three of them match up with their stories. They've never met each other, they don't know each other, they're not related. Um and all three of them say the same thing. And all three of them have been in and out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Hmm.
And that's it. I mean, that's all there really is to it. And they all say that. We don't know. We really don't know what these things are. We just know that it seems to like come from Roswell back when the Roswell crash happened and the debris was sent up here. We tried to work with it. We couldn't. We didn't understand how it worked. We put it the fuck down. Said, you know what? Even we are smart enough not to fuck with this and didn't. And now they're scared too. And that's all they know.
Hmm.
So I don't know. But anyway, um, yeah, so very interesting. Well, that was another thing they had said too, was that they were asked if they have ever had a crash with any of these things. They said they had 11 near misses, and then when that answer was said, the guy was like, "Well, did you try to make contact with them?" And they said no. So you're telling me that your pilots almost crashed into these things, and you didn't try to talk to them and say, "Hey, you're going to crash into me"? That's kind of
Right.
weird.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
No, of course not.
Hey, I don't fucking believe that. I'm sorry, I don't. So, I mean, it's a lot of it, again, a lot of it wasn't necessarily what was said. It was what wasn't said that was really a clue into these things.
Well, yeah, I think like the scenario that you just described, it's not so much that they would rather say we didn't try to contact them as opposed to saying we tried to contact them, but we're unable to.
Right.
This craft almost hit us. We
Or
tried to
didn't get a
hail it
response
on
or
comm frequencies, but we didn't have the right frequency, or they didn't respond to us. We didn't get through to them, or they just chose not to answer. And there was no communication. So I could believe that there was no communication, but the way they try to spin it is, well, that's because we didn't try. You know what I mean? Which is
right.
a very like
Listen.
9-year-old girl way to fucking approach it. You
Right.
know, like, oh,
Right.
I didn't want to talk to them anyway. We didn't even try to do it. Like, you fucking, of course you did. And you were on the wrong fucking channel. You had the CB set to the wrong station, and fucking they didn't pick up. You
Right.
know,
You dropped the
no,
fucking
no,
ball somewhere.
no, we didn't. We didn't even try to call them. I don't
Yeah,
know.
bullshit. You almost hit the fucking thing and you didn't try
Yeah.
to say
You weren't
anything.
like, hello. No, it was
Right.
just,
You
oh, we
didn't
didn't
honk
say
your fucking
nothing.
horn. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Are you serious?
Right.
You're gonna fucking stand there and tell all of America that? Really? You're gonna lie? Okay.
Oh,
You
we barely
know.
even noticed it, bro. It was like we were doing other things at the time, and this thing almost came in. We were just like, whatever, you know. How nonchalant about it we were. Like, okay, but it is the military, so who knows? You know what I mean? Very bro-ish mentality, you know.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so anyway, but again, nothing surprising. It's a step in the right direction, I suppose. I mean, but what is surprising is like people's reaction to this. People are mad on the internet. They're like, there's a formula shortage happening right now, and this is not important. And you guys are talking about UFOs. And it's like, okay, I don't know if those people are just in fucking denial.
There's some people where the idea of extraterrestrials occupies zero real estate in their minds. It's just this they could not fucking care less. There's people like
Yeah.
that out there. There's
Yeah.
people that don't have time for any of this shit. There's other people out there that are sitting there arguing about which Bigfoot theory they think holds the most water. And then you have other people that don't even they care more about the Mets. You know what I mean? I mean, it blows my mind that people watch baseball like recreationally or golf. You know what I mean? But they do. Those people are out there. So the idea that someone could have zero interest in any of this, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's no one that I'd ever have in my kitchen, but I'm sure that they exist.
It's
You know,
crazy to me. I
very
don't
very narrow
understand.
sighted. Yeah,
Very. And it's like, but I get it if you were talking about fucking baseball or something. That has no bearing on my life whatsoever, whether or not
right.
baseball's real, but or
Or
whether you
whether or not
believe it's
sports are
real.
fixed. Like that's another thing people get all up in arms about is
They
boxing
do.
fixed or
Right.
sports fixed. It's like who gives a fuck?
Right.
But
That doesn't
for
change anything. Like,
right. For some people, they do give a fuck. It means a lot to them, you know?
but like if aliens are real, that changes everything. And I don't know how people don't get like my mom, I sent it to her. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, check this out. I sent it to her while it was happening. She texted me back. She said, wow. I was like, wow. Okay. So I talked to her later. It was her birthday, right? Actually, the 17th. That's her birthday. And I went to her house, and I was like, did you watch the hearing?" And she was like, "No, I didn't watch that. I was doing this." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "How? How did you? Like, you were off today."
Right.
Like, it was an hour and a half. You didn't watch it, But she's just not interested in this stuff, I guess. Until she does, like, she'll come across some terrible show on TV about this stuff, and she'll be like, "Did you know?" And try to like tell me about these things, and I'm like, no, that's not real, but you should check out this instead. And she's like, just totally not interested. I'm like, I don't get it.
Dude, the shit my mom watches on TV, there's like a whole other universe of TV shows that my mom watches that I don't even know exist.
I've
Like
never even heard of.
these fucking NCIS shows and stuff with Tom Selleck. Like he's still on TV in the
Whoa.
Hawaii Five O thing. Like she watches shit that like seriously, I didn't even know was real. You know, she lives in a completely different our parents in TV like live in a completely different world than me.
They
I could
really
go
do.
all week long and like maybe watch 2 episodes of Kids in the Hall on Amazon. And that's it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm reading or I'm playing on my phone or I'm reading or sleeping. You know, and yeah, there's many different worlds out there. People talk about the multiverse. It doesn't even have to be the different dimensions. There's people on this planet in this timeline right now that live in completely different,
The different
completely.
worlds. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
listen, I have cable TV. My mom insists that I have to have cable TV or my daughter will be not cool in school. And so I'm like, whatever, you pay for it, I'll have it. She does. And so I have cable TV. I had to switch providers back in August. Okay. And so I did that. I just this past fucking week sat down and turned on the cable TV, and I realized that I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking at. I have no idea. There's like channels that I remember like watching that I don't even have, and they're like basic. It's like basic cable channels. So I call my cable company and I'm like, "Hey, don't you guys have like basic fucking cable?" And apparently that's not a thing anymore. I'm just like, I don't. I'm like, this is why I don't fucking watch TV. It's too much. It's too hard. Go fucking read a book and play a video game instead.
Right. SNL is like the only thing that I'll watch live on TV or the news every once in a while. And like when I have the news on, like my wife will walk by the TV and be like, "Is there another riot at the Capitol? Why do we have the news on? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Because remember when you used to watch 5 o'clock news every night? Like, isn't this what people do in this country anymore?" Like, no, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess people. I mean, I will pull up like the network apps on like my Roku and fucking stream stuff. And I have to use my cable provider to do it. So that's the only reason why I keep it is so I can fucking stream stuff. That's it. Other than that, I don't watch it. But anyway, anything else you want to say about the UFO congressional hearing, Pato?
Nope, not at all.
Did you have some news you wanted to share?
I do actually. This is
Please.
my first like actual news story that I researched and I wrote the copy for just for this week's episode. So this is a milestone for
That's
us.
Pato exclusive.
Right. So this week, Chinese cave explorers have found a primeval forest filled with 130-foot tall ancient trees. This is from People magazine, which is slightly more reliable source than Weekly World News. This forest was found at the bottom of a 630-foot deep sinkhole that had formed earlier this month. It was the 30th or so sinkhole to be discovered recently in that region of China. Chinese explorers took several hours to rappel down where they discovered the forest and have dubbed the area the Heavenly Pit. I wouldn't be surprised to know that there are species found in these caves that have never been reported or described by science until now, said George Venny, executive director of the National Cave and Something Research Institute in New Mexico.
Sure.
So this was a really cool story for me for a couple different reasons. Number one, sinkholes terrify me. As an adult, sinkholes are like the equivalent of like quicksand and earthquakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot more
Like
deadlier.
I worry about sinkholes probably more than rationally I need to,
Yeah,
but maybe not. Like sinkholes, just you see this shit all the time where like they happen in roads and cars just drive into them, and like they could happen anywhere at any time.
yeah.
So yeah, sinkholes in general freak me the fuck out. But also, I am a fan as far as like the paranormal stuff goes of Hollow Earth stuff. And once I get through the current stack of books that I'm reading, I am totally going to start reading the Richard Shaver stories. I've been aware of him for a year. He has a lot of one of these guys that wrote for like Fate magazine and wrote a lot of fiction, but supposedly it wasn't really fiction. It was like based on true events, but
Yeah,
maybe
it's a
not.
weird the Shaver Mysteries is a weird
Yeah, Aaron
thing.
Dees is a huge fan of it, and I think when he went on his vacation recently, where he was posting pictures of himself with those books. I think he had one, and that's what triggered me to be like, I need to fucking sit down and read those
Yeah.
things.
We've talked about doing it on the show before.
Yeah, totally. Um, so definitely, I wanted to bring this story up. So there you go.
Well, I mean, I have several questions. You
Sure.
where did this? I mean, how were these trees doing it without the sunlight?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
What does that mean now for for things like that? I mean, does that mean that? I mean, surely if one exists, there's more out there, right? There's more civilizations underground and these sinkholes that are out there. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, trees kind of need light.
ecosystems. Let's not necessarily say civilizations. I don't know if there was like, huts and stuff or like economies going on down there, but there was definitely an ecosystem they found at the bottom of the sinkhole. Um, there might have been sunlight coming through like certain holes, and then the sinkhole just opened up a big window down there. I mean, there must have been, right? You hit the nail right on the head. How does sunlight get down there for the trees to grow? The trees aren't going to grow without sunlight.
Right.
So it must have been kind of partially exposed somewhat.
Right.
That's a pretty big drop.
Right. I mean, there had to have been something, but like, have you ever owned plants? Because, like, your plants will kind of move towards where your sun is, and that's how they'll grow. And so if you have plants outside or whatever, then obviously they have sun hitting them in different directions at different times of day. They're usually pretty straight. If you have plants in the house and you have it by a particular window, you'll notice that that plant typically tends to lean towards the window.
Yeah,
And so I mean, it couldn't have just been like one little ray of sunshine in this place that was doing it, if you're talking about an ecosystem underneath there. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what happens with this. I'm sure we kind of got to wait for more information, because I'm sure that scientists are also very baffled and curious about this area. But very neat. I'm not surprised. I think it's cool. Yeah, I think that's, I don't know, pretty cool.
cool.
Um,
Well, thank you.
did you want to talk about the other story that you shared with me?
Which is the other
I
one?
did read it about NASA saying that our about our universe. I'll just say it. NASA says that our
Eh,
universe is expanding fast.
yeah, there's not. They didn't really draw any conclusions there, but
Yeah, it's
I think
expanding
the
really
headline was like something weird is going on with our universe, and that
something
was
weird. It's
yeah.
really not that weird. We know that. I mean, it's just because it is it's traversing our expectation. And so um we we know that the universe is expanding and it keeps growing out, and the older it gets, the faster it's growing. So it started expanding really small, now it's getting really big, kind of like, I mean, like a snowball. The bigger your snowball gets, the faster it rolls down the hill, the bigger it gets at a faster rate. Except we're not a snowball, or at least we thought, we didn't think we were. But that's really it. NASA just says we're expanding super quick. Different galaxies are moving away from us, and that's really it. How does that affect us? It probably doesn't. Not in this lifetime. So you got nothing to worry about for at least another 100 years, maybe.
My favorite part of that story was the very end where it suggests that we might have to update our officials said that the cause of this discrepancy remains a mystery, but Hubble data encompassing a variety of cosmic objects that serve as distance markers support the idea that something weird is going on, possibly involving brand new physics, officials said in a news release. So I think that's important, and that's something that we've brought up on the show before. But anytime we get to bring it up, it brings me joy and elation. Is that our understanding of physics is constantly evolving, and it's a great tie into this show's topic, this week's topic as well.
It is.
Um, Everybody always thinks that the generation that they live in, the theories that they have now, are the definitive theories on science, and they
Right.
never fucking are.
Never are. We are at the peak right now. We couldn't possibly be wrong, except for in even 20 years.
Yes.
The difference it is.
Historically, it has been proven time after time after time after time again that our understanding of science is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
We do not know everything there is to know, and what at least a percentage of what we take for science fact today will be disproven tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is a wonderful tie into this week's topic.
So this week's topic was a fan request.
Really?
Yep, it was.
I didn't know that. I saw it on the list and I was like, I was all about it. Do we know it was anyone particular that requested it, or
I don't remember who it was. I wish I could.
we'll
But
just say Ryan Tremblay?
I'm gonna punch you in the face, Pat.
Come at me, bro.
We're gonna get
I'll
violent.
come out there. You don't have to worry about me. You know I'll come out there. Fucking smack me in the face, smack me in the bottom, whatever. Smack me in the prostate.
You can get tickets to me and Pato's fight if you go subscribe to the Patreon.
There you
Um,
go.
Actually, I am gonna hold on, before we get into this week's topic. Fan requests. You know what? You don't have to pay me to request a show. You can just request a show, and we'll probably fucking do it.
Yeah.
This particular topic is not my jam. However, it's definitely more Pato's jam, and so that's fine. And even if it's neither of our jams, like the I don't know, like the Denver airport, we'll still do it and do it
Right.
well. So, there's that. But speaking of the Patreon, I have a real treat that I'm going to release this week on the Patreon. And
Yes, I'm hungry for new Patreon. Frank California is
yes,
hungry for new Patreon content.
I'm sure Frank California is starving for it. But I kind of slipped back a little bit. I've been reading the Mothman prophecies. I need to get back on top of it. But being sick, it's been difficult. But I'm gonna release the. Oh my gosh, should I say it? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna release the lost episode of On Wednesdays We Talk Weird with the giant dicked alien guy on the
Oh,
Patreon. This is a
oh
big
my
fucking deal. This is a
god!
big deal. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I completely forgot that even existed.
Not me, because I tell that story all the fucking. Everybody's like, "What's the weirdest thing that's ever happened?" And I tell that story, and
Oh my god!
I keep talking about. I'm like, maybe I'll release the episode one day on like the Patreon
Will
or
you do it
something.
tomorrow? I want to listen to it tomorrow at work. Can you do it tomorrow, or is it ready yet, or how much time do you need?
Oh, I just need to post it. It's ready.
Post it tonight. Well, now we got to worry about the time travel.
We got to worry about the time travel. I'll post it
It'll
on.
be posted maybe by the time you hear this or this week or some shit. I don't
It'll
fucking
be
know.
posted by Thursday, so you have 24 hours to get your shit together and subscribe. And if it's Friday, then it's already up there, and you need to go and subscribe to the Patreon because there's other stuff on there too. But this is a big deal. Again, this is kind of the stuff that rumors are made up of. We talked about this episode so much. Don't miss your chance to hear it. It's the only way you
Let
can
me
hear it.
let me just say this: if you sign up, listen to this episode, and then cancel it.
And then cancel. Yeah.
And you're not getting grifted, because if you sign up and you'll have well, it's kind of towards the end of the month. I get it if you want to wait until after the first of the month, but my point is that, like, listen,
You don't want to miss
and
this.
this is a good one, and between this is like this is really good. This is really, really good. This is really funny. And I think it shows an exercise in restraint on our parts as interviewers
Yeah.
that we handled this as well as we did. This is like one for the. So did we run any? Because didn't we do 2 interviews with him or just 1?
We only did the one interview. It was the first guest we ever had on the show ever. Well,
Mm-hmm.
technically, Pato, you were the first guest, but
Right.
really, for us and the way the show is now, it's the first guest we ever had on the show. We recorded it over Zoom. That's not how we record, and so we didn't do it like we do now. Now we have the guests come on. We do the entire show with them, the news and everything.
Right.
We didn't do it that way. So you and I did an intro and an outro. So you and I recorded twice for the one episode, but we only did the actual interview with him one time. I don't want to give away too much because I want you and I to do a retrospective of this episode and then put that on Patreon as well.
So remind me what happened. So did this ever go live? Because then he was like, "You better take it down," but he just heard us do the lead up to it.
It did go live, and it was live for less than a week, and then it was taken down. The only
Okay.
episode that's ever been removed from the entire show. Yeah.
Okay, so it did go live.
It did.
Where he
Very
talks about
few people heard
Mars
it.
and the fucking tunnels and everything.
Yeah, talked about living on Mars. He talks about meeting up with all these alien races. He didn't really want to talk about his giant alien dick. But that's how this all started. So and we had been talking about this. We had been kind of teasing this, not teasing him, but we'd talked about it weeks leading up to this episode, to that episode. And we finally had him on the show. And so, I mean, if you've heard earlier episodes and then all of a sudden you didn't hear anything else about the guy, this is why. It got removed. But the basic gist of it is that this guy, I'm just gonna very basically tell you, this guy came to me, said that he had the biggest dick in the entire world, and I'll tell you, I'm not going to tell you if he does or doesn't. I'm going to save that for the retrospective. But he said that it was given to him by aliens, that he is a combination of like 5 different alien species or something. And it's given to him because it's like a billboard that he has to like present to the world so people know he's different and weird. And Pato and I interview him, and he freaked out about the interview because we put it online and said that he didn't know he was on it. There's no way he had no idea that this was being recorded. There's no way. He knew what it was for. He knew why he was there. And then he freaked out, started threatening us, and so we removed the show.
Strangely racist too, like
Yeah,
throwing n-bombs around, like.
oh yeah.
And I mean, look, I like thick white girls and I play bass and whatever, but like he was getting very hostile out of absolutely nowhere
Yeah.
for no reason. Like it was, and we decided to take it down. And listen, I don't cave to pressure, But like, I think we did the right thing because he was clearly unstable, and I was honestly worried about you because you guys didn't live terribly far
No,
apart,
we didn't.
and I wasn't worried about him showing up on my fucking doorstep, but I didn't want him doing anything to you, so I yeah, it was. I think we did the right thing by taking it down, but this is a perfect place for it.
But yes, now, and I've said it over and over again, maybe I'll put it up behind a paywall somewhere. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's ready to roll. And it will be on there after Thursday. And Pat O and I will be doing a retrospective on it and and telling like starting rehashing the whole story from beginning to end, how we met this guy, how this happened, and then kind of what we think about it in hindsight. Probably about a year after it has probably about a year ago when it came out. So
Right.
that is anyway, so that's the Patreon for the week. That's gonna be what it is. So I'm I stalled for a minute. I had like a good week where I didn't post anything. I'm coming back hard for you guys. Trust me, you're gonna get your money's worth out of just this one interview. I promise. I fucking
Yeah.
promise.
And there's still at least two more shows
There
that
are
are
two more shows to put
in
out
the
there, which
hopper
are
too. Yeah.
very good. And then we've got tons of other stuff planned. I'm still reading the Mothman prophecies. I'm still releasing my own personal pieces of evidence that I've never put out anywhere on the internet. I've got tons of stuff to release there. So there's no shortage of things to look at. Um, and do. So anyway, that's my plug for the Patreon. Pat, do you want to philosopher stone us?
Sure. So yeah, I saw this as a potential topic for this week's show. I was tangentially familiar with it, just as somebody that had read Harry Potter books. And Philosopher's Stone, it's something that anyone that's done a little bit of fantasy reading or studied the occult or anything has heard of before, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. So I
Sure.
thought that it'd be fun to do a deep dive on just for my own sake. And I gotta admit, I learned a lot this week. So I guess we'll just get into it, right? Well, let me ask you, Ashley, what was your familiarity with the Philosopher's Stone before this week's episode?
Not really anything. The only time I'd ever heard the term was because of Harry Potter.
Right.
And even then, I don't really remember Harry Potter. I wasn't a big Harry Potter person.
So in the context of Harry Potter, it was sought after by Voldemort for, I'm sorry, he who should not be named, because of its it is healing properties, as an elixir of life, and that is part of the mythology behind the Philosopher's Stone. Is that it's a stone that can be found like diamonds or anything else. There's not one specific stone that's the Philosopher's
right,
Stone. It's a mineral. It's something that you could find in nature, and some people believe that it can be used to transmute common metals into gold, but that it can also, if ingested, uh, lead to a long, healthy life as well. And in the context of Harry Potter, he who should not be named is after it, so that he can come back to life and do whatever he wants
so
to do.
right, and so I did also watch the entirety of Full Metal Alchemist, and so
my, my son loves that show.
I did too. I only watched the original. I didn't watch Brotherhood. I just watched the original. But very sad shit that is, man. That's fucking
Yeah,
disturbing. But anyway, so I mean, I'm kind
It-
of familiar with
that's where
alchemy.
the guy's kid brother gets trapped with the robot, right?
Yeah.
Just okay, all right,
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so I mean, and I don't know if they talk about the Philosopher's Stone. They probably do. I'd imagine they do. But it's never ever been something that I have entertained, and even while attempting to do research for this week, because I'll be honest, this is not my jam. This is absolutely history is not my thing. I am
Right.
so fucking bored with it. That's why I have Anne. That's her thing, and so I'm like trying to research it, and I was having a hard time. I'm like, did we fuck up? Is this actually a thing, or is this like completely fake? And I don't know. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let Pato take the reins on this, and he can.
There's a lot of interesting talking points here. There's not so much as far as historically speaking. There's not so much stuff that's gonna leave you twist your melon too much, but there's a lot of interesting points that come up when you research something, when you research the Philosopher's Stone. So early alchemists were constantly looking for a way to transmute material. So alchemy, I'm sure, is the idea of it's an early practice that led to chemistry, right?
Right. It's
So
kind of
before,
dead now. I mean,
right, because we know now it's just chemistry, it's just called
right.
chemistry. But back then, when we knew little about the world, and magic kind of and science went hand in hand, the idea of transforming one element into a different one was considered alchemy. And early alchemists were constantly trying to figure out a way to turn common objects into gold. We knew that uh, things change state. We knew that water turned to ice, that water could turn to steam. We knew that you could melt tin and copper and form bronze, right? We've known that for fucking centuries. So we kind of had a fundamental grasp of these things, but the idea was, how can we potentially turn something into gold? And through observing minerals and elements in centuries ago, we started to discover things that made us think that this was something that we could do. We would notice the unusual behavior of radioactive elements, right? Where we would find something, we would dig it out of the ground, it would be radioactive, it would start to decay, and as it lost protons, it would change into a different material. And we attributed that to magic because we didn't understand fucking radioactive.
Right.
So there was always this stuff that was kind of there. And like I said, magic and the occult and science all went hand in hand. So we started to put a lot of energy into this. And along the way, early alchemists would make discoveries that would fuel this interest even further. We would discover things like phosphorus. We would discover things like, which is how you make fireworks and shit, right? Or you would discover gunpowder. You would discover sulfuric acid, right? And while these weren't turning lead into gold, it kind of fueled the idea of exploration, right?
I mean,
Before
if
we get
you
much,
rob
go on.
people with your sulfuric acid, then you kind of are turning lead into gold, aren't you?
There you go. But let's talk about the gold thing for a second, because this ties into so much other stuff. What fueled mankind's drive to create more gold? Why was gold so valuable? So anybody that's played Minecraft knows that gold is a very soft material. It's not really useful for much besides conductivity, it shields from radioactiveness. But early man was fascinated with it. And early man tried to amass as much of it possible. It was used in a lot of different religious rituals. If anyone that's read the Bible knows that there's extensive instructions on how to build temples, altars, the Ark of the Covenant, all utilize gold heavily in their construction. Gold had religious significance, okay? As a metal, it's not very useful. It's very soft, right? But for some reason, mankind's always been enamored by it.
Yeah.
And some people think that it's because of the Anunnaki, or maybe mankind was more technologically advanced than we give it credit for, because it is very conductive. It has high conductivity. So with electricity and stuff, when you're building shit, you can use golden circuitry. But if you talk about ancient man, where everything had to have a purpose, there really was no concrete purpose for gold. Iron was much more valuable. Silver was much more valuable.
Right.
When you think about practical use, right? Gold really wasn't. But our money is based on a gold standard. You know what I mean? It's interesting that, like, what fueled alchemy, which in turn created chemistry and other science, was this quest for gold, a metal that we really have no real reason to be so obsessed over. And I think, but if you spend enough time looking at alchemy and in relation to the Philosopher's Stone, um, why gold? You know what I mean?
Do you have any theories as to why gold?
Well, I know there's a lot of people that think that, with, like, I brought up the Anunnaki, some people think that mankind was created by this alien race to harvest gold from this planet. And once they then event, I watched the movie fucking Stargate, like it's pretty much right there. That like eventually we overthrew them or they left on their own for whatever reason, and that's why mankind is here, right? That's where we came from. Um, you can't deny its significance in the Bible and the Old Testament, and that every major religion just amassed as much gold as possible and left it as a offering to the gods. So there's some kind of religious significance there. And if you believe that God was an astronaut theory, then it kind of all ties together and makes sense. I don't know. I think that's kind of a little far fetched. I've never personally subscribed to that, but I don't know. What do you think?
We're not the only species that like shiny things. You
That's what
know,
my son said. It's a
m-
lot prettier than a lot of. I mean, diamonds seem to have more use, but were diamonds in the cradle of civilization? I don't know.
I mean, I think we might have discovered gold before diamonds. Because diamonds, I think we have a little more influence on how they're made. But then again, I'm not an alchemist, so I don't know. I just think that maybe somebody found gold and say, "Hey, look what I got," and everybody in town or in the village was like, "Shit, I want that," and everybody was like, "Well, what do you want for that pretty rock that you have?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know." And that person realized that they could have literally anything they wanted, and so therefore it became valuable. I mean, you know, I think it's that easy. I mean, that's kind of how currency started. We didn't really have currency; we just traded each other for things, right? And so gold I think it just accidentally became currency because it was pretty and somebody had it and other people wanted it and they could fucking be the king of the village by just because they had it and people wanted it. I don't know.
And there's enough of it for you to for you to base a currency around, but not so much of it that it loses its value, right?
Exactly.
Like there's emeralds and there's rubies and there's other precious stones out there that you could potentially have an economy based around, but those are relatively scarce in comparison. There's a
And
lot of gold.
they require work. I mean, you can't just get ruby is not it doesn't just look that way, it takes a lot of work. So yeah, I mean, I just think it was accidental.
Yeah,
Oops.
well, it's very convenient. Um, so moving forward a little bit, let's just bring things up to modern times. We eventually did figure out how to turn uh, not lead so much into gold, but mercury, and that's because we figured out in the early 20th century that mercury has one more proton than gold. So if you electrify mercury enough, you can knock that one proton off and you can create gold vapors. It's a lot of energy to put forth for very little result. And the problem with laboratory made gold is that it's radioactive and it's unstable. So when you pull gold out of the ground, it's very stable and it stays gold. When we create it through modern day alchemy, it kind of the isotopes shift around and it eventually degrades into something else or it's radioactive and it's not really of much use. And there's a tiny amount of it for the amount of work that you have to put in to make it. So spoiler alert, we eventually did figure out how to turn things into gold, but it's not really worth it. But once again, there's still experiments out there to this day on turning mercury into gold and that whole thing. And through the exploration of that process, we're learning other things about science. So it's still something to this day that mankind quests to do, with or without the Philosopher's Stone. So, um,
But it's also
oh
kind of become a different. I mean, from what I was trying to understand, you kind of have this two-parter to the Philosopher's Stone. It's this weird wonder rock that can turn other rocks into more valuable rocks. But then it's also this weird portal to eternal life, and I don't get that connection at all.
yeah, that is weird. I think you hit the nail right on the head, Ashers.
I mean, what
Uh,
the fuck does that? I mean, what does that have to do? Where did that come from? Any idea? Did you find that out? Because I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, where does this belief come from? And I
so,
couldn't.
right. So there's. It seems like a lot of the writings go back to 300 AD. All
That's a
right.
long fucking ass time ago.
Yeah, but some people also say that the Philosopher's Stone goes back to the Adam in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
and that was something that he took out of the garden, because if you look at the early like the forefathers of the Bible, they all lived like a very long time. They all lived hundreds and hundreds of years,
Yeah.
and that was due to the philosopher's stone, and that was passed down. And that when Solomon built the temple, they think there's a correlation between I don't know if you ever, if you're a Sublime fan, you'll recognize this, but the idea that the line about the stone that the builder refuses becomes the cornerstone,
Okay.
and that has to do when they were building Solomon's temple. Supposedly the stone that they had cut from the quarry to be the cornerstone of the temple, the first stone that you put down that everything else is built off of, when it came, when it was brought to the temple site, because part of the, for whatever reason, God wanted the temple built in a quiet place. So they weren't going to build it by the quarry. They had to transport the stone. And when the stone was transported to the site where they were building the Temple of Solomon, it they thought that it wasn't the right one, or there was something wrong with it, so they pushed it off the side of the cliff. And then they realized, oh shit, we need that, and they brought it back up. And that was supposed to be kind of a metaphor for Jesus, because he was the cornerstone of the Catholic Church, of the new age of God and his New Testament. And he was rejected by the Jews, and he was crucified, right? And some people think that the stone that the builder refused that became the cornerstone is also tied into the Philosopher's Stone or something. It's not fucking real. All right, this is what it comes down to. So there's a lot of backtracking, I think, in going through history and people looking for this thing and imparting religious significance to it. And at the end of the day, we know that it's not real. We know that there's no magic stone that can transmutate metals. We understand how that process does happen, right? And we're further exploring it in a laboratory setting. We know that there's no magic rock that you eat that makes you live forever, but it's people trying to, once again, backwards engineer stories from the Bible, and like, well, how come people lived so long? And they say that Noah lived 300 years and Methuselah lived 400 years. Blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not true. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they're trying to attribute it to something. And once again, a lot of this stuff comes from the Renaissance, where science and religion and magic all were hand in hand, right? So, no, I mean, no one ever found it. There's kind of the when you research the Philosopher's Stone, the one name that comes up the most, and if you watch fantasy or anything where it's used as a plot device in a movie, the person that you hear brought up the most is Nicolas Flamel, a 14th century French alchemist that, working out of Paris, believed in the ancient theory that all matter came from prima material, an elemental material that was formed of the four basic elements: earth, air, water, and fire. He accepted the postulation that everything in the universe was formed from these four elements, and the ratio of each determined whether a compound could turn lead into, and the ratio of each determined whether or not a compound could be turned from lead into gold. Um, Books published in 1612 in Paris and 1624 in London have attributed to Flamel almost 200 years after his death, lead to the speculation that he had discovered the elixir of life, because they found, he died and then all these books were released after the fact of his name, and that he was immortal. I don't necessarily buy that. Another person that I came across that I thought was really interesting, and I came across this on an accident because I was looking for accounts of Simon Magus, who is a New Testament magician that's brought up in the Acts of the Apostles. So one of the things that I really like reading about is magic in relation to in relation to the Bible, right? So, like, if you read the Bible, there's a lot of references to other gods. The Judaism and Christianity are monotheistic religions, meaning that you worship the one God, Jehovah, Yahweh, or whatever. But it never denies the existence of other gods. There is a pantheon of other gods in the Bible, but Jehovah, Yahweh, he is the primary one. Okay, so, and that's something that's always glanced over. You know what I mean? They don't really talk about that too much. But if you look at the Ten Commandments, what's the first commandment? You know, I am the Lord your God. You will not worship other gods besides me. If there weren't other gods, that wouldn't be a commandment because there would be no one else to worship. So the idea that there were other gods, that there were other religions that held power, that there was magic and stuff, that, and there's a lot of Jewish mysticism shit too, but that stuff always fascinates me. And in looking up Simon Magus to see if there was any relationship between that and the Philosopher's Stone, I came across information about Albertus Magnus, who was a actual saint, Catholic saint, that was a scientist. He was an alchemist, did all this stuff in the Middle Ages. And he supposedly found the Philosopher's Stone and passed it along to St. Thomas Aquinas, who is another, he was a famous hedonist that eventually renounced his fuckery and came over to the Catholic Church and was responsible for spreading Catholicism all over Europe in the Middle Ages.
Okay.
So I know I'm kind of all over the place. There's a lot of shit here. It's like there's a lot of shit, but there's not a lot of shit. I don't know what to tell you. We could talk about the Renaissance fucking all episode long, but it's not gonna, you know, it's not gonna really get us anywhere.
I
Trust
mean,
me, this is not gonna be the coast to coast episode. All right, this is not gonna be the episode the coast to coast listens to and offers us jobs. Just so you know,
oh
just to
God.
take the pressure off you.
I hope it isn't this one. I hope it's the I won't say which one I hope it is. But anyway, coast to coast, if you're listening to this, don't listen to this one. Stop right now and go. I mean, I know you're already pretty much there, all the way there, but go listen to a different one. No, I'm just kidding. This is just not my jam. These types of things are not my thing. But from what I was reading about it, it's been around for a very long time, and not just like biblically. Like it's something that has been around. The Greeks had the version of the Philosopher's Stone, and a lot of people seem to have had a version of it, and that the belief system surrounding it changes depending on your culture. So it
Right.
seems to have been around for a very, very long time, which I think kind of, if there is any credibility here at all, um, that's really it. It's just that anecdotal evidence that it's been here forever. Um, so go ahead.
Well, it is a consistent, persistent myth.
It is, right.
And I think the reason that that is the case is because there's such an undeniably strong drive for it to be real. And I think that you got to remember in the midst of them looking for this thing, they're making discoveries.
They are.
They're finding things left and right. Every
Right.
court, every king in the Middle Ages had an alchemist, had a court alchemist, and they would make discoveries, and they would figure out things that the alchemist two kingdoms over didn't find out, right? And so you're talking about the opening shots of a brand new field of science, and they're making discoveries, they're breaking new ground, and every little new thing that they discover, when they discover magnesium, and oh my god, magnesium is combustible in the air, and all we have to do is grind up magnesium, expose it to the air, and it flashes, and everything brings them they think is bringing them closer to the discovery of the Philosopher's Stone, which is their ultimate goal, is to find out how to turn mundane materials into gold, because it is all about gold, right? And that's why I spent so much time for seemingly no reason, like 20 minutes ago, talking about why do we have this drive for gold, a material that, practically speaking, is kind of worthless,
Right.
but it has such a religious significance. It's used so much in early religious rituals and has this weird alien story to it that led mankind over the millennia to try to figure out a way to manufacture it, because they just couldn't get enough of it.
Right. I mean, at this point in our lives, like I don't give a there's still people today that are like, one of my really good friends, he is like all about like you need to buy gold, you need to buy gold because the world's gonna fucking there's gonna be an apocalypse and that's the only thing that's gonna be worth anything is gold. And it's like I have absolutely no interest at all in owning gold. It's ugly as fuck. So I don't want to wear it. You know, I don't, I could spend my money on something that I do actually like and not gold. You know what I mean? And it's still like this weird ingrained instinct that we have to feel like it's valuable because, like, at the same time, even though I have no interest in going out of my way and purchasing gold on my own, if someone walked up to me and handed me a piece of gold and said, "Here you go," I'd take it and I'd keep it, you know? And so why is that? I don't really know because I know it's valuable, but why is it valuable? It just doesn't really make much sense now. Um,
Right. Well, because like I said, it's the standard that most currencies are based on.
yeah,
And why? It's because it's been embedded in our mind and put in our mind that it's the most valuable substance on the earth. And you know like I said, even going back to a time where we were very utilitarian as a species, the most valuable thing is water. You know what I mean? The most valuable thing is livestock. Me and my son were talking about this the other day because he saw me researching this Sunday morning and he wanted to know, and we were talking about it. And him being a big Minecraft player, he totally wrapped his head around what I was saying. And I was like, and he brought up after the apocalypse because they're always saying, "Oh, invest in gold in case there's a crash."
right,
And I'm like, "You're better off investing in women." Right?
right,
If society collapses and you have to barter with someone, trust me, having a sister is going to be way more profitable than having a basement full of gold, right?
absolutely,
And I know it's a terrible thing to say, especially because I have a daughter, but like, you know, I mean, let's be realistic here. What's valuable to us is what we need. But apparently, there was a time, a very long time ago, where we needed gold. What did we need it for? Did we need it to shield us from radiation? Did we need it to make advanced circuitry? What did we need it for?
right,
Because it wasn't for making armor or weapons, right? It was for pleasing the gods, because even in the Bible, even in the Old Testament, God wants every temple made with gold ornaments. God wants, the Ark of the Covenant that's going to hold the Ten Commandments. He wants it lined with gold. You know, I mean, that's instructions on how to create the stuff that's in the Old Testament, that's in the Torah, and it's all gold, 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 gold. So, yeah, I think that to get into why the Philosopher's Stone is such a persistent myth, we have to kind of take a step back and look at our relationship with gold in the first place, and that's where things get kind of hinky and kind of interesting. So this topic, I mean, it's kind of a weird one, but I think it could be kind of thought-provoking, and it can lead to some really good questions that we don't have the answers to. But I didn't necessarily think it was a terrible topic. you know it just wasn't. It's not sexy, or you're not going to talk. It's not like you're talking about a serial killer where you're talking about one dude and some shit that he did. you know it's kind of all over the place, but yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. I mean, this is I think the more interesting, the sexier topic of this is how kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, how we at every point in history continue to think that we are at our peak in these discoveries and we're not. I mean, look at this,
Right.
look at the news story shared in the beginning of this episode, how we discovered an entire fucking ecosystem that again tells us really shouldn't exist, but it does. I mean, and it's 2022, and these things happen all the time. We just we really don't know. So like back then, you had something and like alchemy, and that's not really something that we have anymore because what they thought at the time was that they were doing was magic when actually it was just science and they called it something else. But I think that that's very interesting. So
Right. Right. I mean, astronomy is a basis from astrology. All this stuff, the pursuit of knowledge, as much as it's maligned in some earlier sources, the pursuit of knowledge has always pushed mankind forward. And, even if you're looking for thing A and you find thing B, it's not exactly wasted time. And this was a very important part of our evolutionary process. And you're right; it tied into the story that we covered in the news section about the universe expanding. I think this is going to continue to be a part of mankind's journey. You know, we're going to continue to learn new things, and we're going to be looking over here, and we're going to find something over there, and stuff that we thought was true is going to be disproven over time, and that's just part of the journey. And I think that's what makes science so interesting.
I mean, and maybe one day, within our lifetime, someone will fucking discover the Philosopher's Stone, and me and Pato will be like, "Well, shit, we were wrong. This thing's real." But it is a big mythical thing. I mean, is it real? Is it out there? I have not found any credible evidence. Pat, do you think there's been anything that you would deem credible that you came across in your research?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I
No.
agree with that. I mean, a lot of anecdotal evidence, lots of stories, but nothing solid that said, hey, yeah, this could be a thing. Especially in modern day, it's not any. That is not something we talk about in modern times, except for when you're talking about Harry Potter. So,
Right. And alchemy in general, I mean, it's just an archaic way of saying chemistry.
it is, yeah,
People think that it has this like occult connotation, and it did back then because people thought that it was unnatural to mess with. The pursuit of alchemy was unnatural, but that was just kind of the church being scared of science like they've always been.
right,
And really, it's one of those things where what we considered occultists 300, 400 years ago were really just shitty chemists. You know what I mean? And they were not Satan worshipers or anything like that. They weren't trying to commune with the devil. They were just pursuing earth science. And alchemy to this day um doesn't really exist. I mean, I guess there's because honestly, like I said before, we're still trying to turn shit into gold, but we're doing it in a laboratory by moving protons around. And does that technically consider is that considered alchemy? No, it's particle physics or it's chemistry or whatever. You know,
yeah,
it's more legitimized, but the pursuit is still there because we still have that value of gold. We still hunger for it.
right, which is odd because it really in this day and age it's worthless.
Right.
So I
Should be
don't
trying to
know.
figure out how to make more girls.
Like,
You know.
well, I think they're trying to do that with getting rid of Roe versus Wade, but
Damn,
it's a
get
terrible
them,
dig. But I mean,
get them.
you know, that's what it is. They're trying. That's what it is because they know
Because Mars needs cheerleaders,
Mars needs you.
right? They're gonna take all these unwanted babies and ship them off to Mars so that the elite can have something to eat while they watch fucking baseball games
While they watch baseball games.
or whatever. I don't fucking know.
Whatever the elite do. We're not rich enough to be a part of that clan. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's definitely different, a different topic than, we usually do. But, that's the point of the show. Again, the variety. Whatever the hell it is you guys want to hear us talk about, we'll fucking talk about it. And,
I'll spend 2 hours on the internet Sunday morning looking shit up. I don't care.
right, it ain't a big thing.
Yeah.
We will, I mean, that's the point. We want to give you guys a show that you want to listen to. So if you want to recommend things, no matter how out there it is, we'll talk about it. I know we'll do it. But as far as the philosopher's stone goes, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say it's bullshit.
All right. It's quite the stance.
It's quite the stance. I'm gonna say it's bullshit. There's nothing like it out there. There isn't anything that can make you live forever. And fuck gold.
Right. I was always more of a silver guy.
Right, a platinum for me.
Yeah.
Now that's some valuable shit right there. Don't come at me with some gold jewelry. No, no, thank you. I'm a platinum girl, living in a platinum world. All right, I'm gonna stop now. Well, anyway, Pato, any final thoughts?
Oh,
All right.
no. No.
Well, then we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.